People say self-improvement is a marathon, not a sprint. And I would say it's actually both. So there's an initial phase, you can call it the pain period, the period where it takes a lot of willpower to do something, where it's very difficult. So a lot of people watch videos about pickup and they still haven't approached a single girl, right? They still haven't done a single approach. And maybe they went out and tried and failed a couple times, but they didn't get past that pain period. And if you don't get past that pain period, then it feels like arduous. It feels overwhelming. It feels extremely stressful. And what happens most of the time is people end up burning out. Same thing with the gym. They do it for the first 2 weeks, maybe a month, but then they burn out. And they don't get past that pain period. And to get past the pain period, if you kind of like dip your feet in the water, it's never going to happen. It's just not going to happen with any self-improvement goal you have. If you're like, well, I'm going to be a YouTuber, so I'm going to work 1 hour per week on my YouTube videos, not going to happen. You got to change it to, I'm going to post a YouTube video every single day. And if it's cold approach, I'm going to approach women every single day. I'm going to work out every single day. And you do that for maybe a month, maybe 2 months, where you go all in. And then when you go all in for that month, then it becomes second nature to you. Then it doesn't take so much willpower. And just as importantly, you get wins along the way. Because if you're dipping your feet in the water and you're just going to the gym once a week for 10 minutes, you don't get enough progress to feel the winner effect, to feel like I'm getting better, to feel like I'm having successes, to feel like I have potential to actually succeed. But if you start doing like 3 approaches per day, you approach 3 girls per day, for example, well, some of them are going to reject you, but you're going to get some good reactions. You're going to start getting numbers. You're going to start getting successes, and that builds up into momentum.
Yeah.
And then eventually it becomes like you're sliding down. You don't need to put in this arduous willpower effort to continue to get results. But that's the part where most people fail.
Yeah. And I think another cool thing too, I think one of the reasons that we got inspired to talk about this just kind of unconsciously is, we just finished, like I said before, we just finished a hike through Mount Charleston. And I think hiking, especially going up a mountain, is kind of analogous to self-development as a whole, right? So some people, they almost look at self-development as like, oh, well, I'm just going to like keep going perpetually over time without taking any breaks, right? That's a stupid thing to do. Instead, what's fine to do on a hike, especially if it's a tough hike, is you go up and then you take a little bit of a break, a little bit of a breather for a little bit, and then when you're ready, you keep going again. And for the most part, you maintain the progress that you've made up to that point, right? So realistically, if you do a lot of self-development type stuff in a short amount of time and then you kind of completely stop and take a break, you will realistically regress a little bit. But similar to muscle memory when it comes to working out, it's very tough to build new muscle, but it's very easy to maintain muscle you've already built, right? So you can kind of go through these maintenance periods with self-development in the same way as if in a hike where, you're hiking up and then you start to get kind of tired and then you're like, all right, well, I'm going to take like a 5-minute break. And then when you're ready, you gather your bearings and then you go again, take a little bit of a break, go again. And then before you know it, you're at the top of the mountain. And I think that's how overall self-development works. But I think a lot of people think that it's just like, oh, I'm in self-development mode now. I don't have any specific goal. I don't have any timeline with which I want to achieve something. To what you were saying before with guys who just mentally masturbate to YouTube videos of cold approaches and stuff and they don't actually do it, I think one of the reasons why is because they don't set deadlines, right? They don't say, oh, by this date, I should have approached this many girls. By this date, I should have lost this amount of pounds, right? So I think that's the best way to do it. Like I said, if you're climbing a mountain, rather than just being like, oh, well, eventually I'm going to get to the top, you should, plan to get from one area to the next, rest up, then when you're ready to the next, and then eventually through these sort of intervals, you end up at the top.
So, yeah, I agree with the deadlines. I actually once wrote a book that was about 120 pages, and I wrote that in 2 weeks. And I not only wrote it, but I rewrote it, so I edited it, which takes as long as the initial draft, each edit, 6 times, I believe, like 6 times to the point where the editing was really, really good. And that took me only 2 weeks because I set the deadline. I have to finish the book by the end of these 2 weeks. And I was working on it like 7-8 hours a day, and that gave me a very specific vision. Like, I know I have to push myself to do that. Now, there is an art to deadlines, though, because if you find you set a deadline and you're not making enough progress at first, then you want to change it. Because if you're failing and you feel like you're falling behind, then the deadline becomes inertia, right? It becomes procrastination. So there's an art to setting deadlines. That's partly why it's really helpful to get coaching, because if you have a coach, they know, if they're a good coach, they know what kind of deadline to set. They know when you need to pull it back a little. They know when you need to push harder. They know exactly how to keep you in that sweet spot where you're making enough progress to where you feel that this is worthwhile, that I'm having successes, and then you start to get momentum going. But you're not pushing yourself so hard that you burn out and you become overwhelmed, right? You find that balance between too hard and too easy. And there's an art to that. Most people, when they watch self-improvement videos, they never push themselves hard enough in the first place.
I think it's important to make sure that, yeah, you definitely set deadlines, realistic deadlines. People like myself and people like Avery, we're coaches. We have different specialties. His is as, pickup, approach, dating in general, confidence, all that stuff. For me, I cover the confidence stuff as well, but mostly through fitness, as well as from the dating aspect, more like online dating, that type of stuff, like overcoming your fears. And so I noticed for myself, I'm putting myself through this 30-day challenge because that's something that I know is effective based on the hundreds of people that I have trained and helped to get transformations. And that's something that I'm going to be packaging up and offering to you guys to also do as well, because I know that it's super effective. That's the best way to self-develop in a short amount of time. And, I think it's important as a content creator to not just preach to people, but actually practice what you preach, right? So me going through this helps sort of remind me, again, just how much progress that you can make in such a short amount of time. I mean, I've only been through this self-development journey specifically with the things I've been working on for, at this point, like 20-something days. And, if I look back even just the last 3 weeks in terms of my mindset, in terms of my mental toughness, resilience, doing cold showers, doing 1 meal a day, making a rapid physique transformation, being able to cold approach hot girls like it's nothing, right? And not like be all skeeved out and afraid of it. It's pretty crazy how quickly your mind can adapt if you just kind of go all in for a short period of time.
You can achieve goals on your own. I've done it myself with many goals. The problem with doing that is, first of all, like you have to have a good strategy, a good plan that's actually going to get you the goals you want. And so if you have guidance from someone who's been there before, someone who, ideally someone who, like with pickup, they weren't always good with pickup and then they got good with pickup. And so they know the steps you need to take to get there. That helps make sure that you don't just go completely off course. Like there's some guys, I'm doing social circle game. And so I see this guy, like he approaches girls and he's like, I'm adding her to my friend's circle. And he did this for months. And I asked, like, how many times you get laid in those 3 months when you built your social circle? None, but I've got a really good social circle. And that, so having good guidance is very important. Having personal feedback is obviously very useful. And one of the most important things is that if you do it on your own, you have to rely completely on willpower. Yeah. And willpower is something that you can build over time with discipline and patience, but it takes time, and it's also very easy to burn out when you're relying on willpower. It's easy to basically push yourself too far and to give up, or to not push yourself enough, and then you're not getting any successes, and then you give up because you feel like it's pointless, right? Like you do one approach a week, and then you give up because you didn't get a date or you didn't get the kinds of reactions you wanted. When you have guidance, when you have mentorship or coaching, what that allows you to do is to get an external source of motivation, of leverage, and accountability that adds on to your willpower. So you're not purely relying on willpower. You have this external force pulling you towards taking action and getting results. Like this is something you can probably relate to with me taking you out to go approach girls, right? Even on the first day, how many approaches do you think you would have done on the first day solo without having some coaching?
Probably I would have ended up doing maybe a few, but it would have taken me like hours and hours to be like, oh, I need to finally do it. And it's really cool too, is like, first off, it's a lot easier to do when Avery's like, hey, those girls, go approach them, right? And so I do that. And it's a lot easier for Avery as well if I'm like, hey, we're meeting at this time to go work out, so let's train.
I wasn't going to the gym until until you're like, well, we're going to the gym, and then I don't really have a choice anymore. I have this external pull, and that doesn't mean you shouldn't take responsibility and have plans for yourself. But why not take advantage of that resource, right? Why not take advantage of having something beyond your own individual willpower, but also having external leverage? Because that just makes everything far easier, and it increases your chances of success by a good amount.
Yeah. Time is your most precious resource. Like, we're not going to lie to you guys. If you dedicate your life to trying to figure this stuff out without guidance, you could probably do it. It's going to take you years and years and years and unnecessary hardships and errors that you don't even need to go through, right? I think it's a fallacy to think that like all mistakes help you grow. Like, there's some mistakes that help you grow and you learn from it, and there's other mistakes and suffering that's just pointless. Like, why put yourself through pointless suffering when you can actually have somebody, you could hire Avery, you could hire myself, and you can mitigate the process from people who are actually experts. Right?
So I have a story about that. Yeah. When I first learned pickup, I was 16. So I tried something called, it was Neil Strauss's like the game, like it was his 8-week plan to start approaching. Okay. And I think it was called the Style Life Challenge for any of the OGs out there. And so I did the first day of the challenge, which was like to call a stranger and just call a random stranger in the phone book, like to get out of your comfort zone. Yeah. The second day was to go to the mall and ask anyone for the time. And then I went around and I thought, how stupid am I gonna look asking someone for the time when they know I have a cell phone? Like I just got like obsessed by how stupid it would look. And then I walked around for 3 hours, didn't do it, couldn't do it. Yeah. And I ended up having a panic attack by the end of it. And so I was considering like calling an ambulance. That's how I thought I was having a heart attack. That's how bad my anxiety got over the course of like 2 or 3 hours. And then after that, I was like, pickup isn't for me. Like pickup, it's not going to be for me. I need to find a different route. Then 3 years later, actually 2 or 3 years later, I went to my college campus and I went with a friend and I had a wingman to help, tried approaching, still couldn't do it. Then we had some Four Locos, so we got drunk. This is back in the good old days when Four Locos had caffeine. So we got wasted and I still couldn't approach, tried for another 2 hours, completely failed. And then I gave up on pickup until I turned 21. But then when I went out to a bar at 21, eventually I met this guy who was using pickup terminology. He was using the terms. I was like, oh, you're picking up chicks? He said, yeah. And I was like, cool, mind if I come with you? And he said, sure, let's do it. And he would just approach, no hesitancy, very confident. I saw him getting girls' numbers. And he told me, so why don't you do it, buddy? And I was like, I feel like an idiot and I'm going to get rejected. He's like, so what? Why not? And then I did my first approach. I had someone better than me mentor me. And then within the next 3 months, I actually ended up getting laid from cold approach, even though I couldn't do it before because I kept going out with this guy who was much better than me. And that's the difference that coaching makes. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible to succeed on your own. I've had a lot of successes on my own. They just always took longer. And I was more likely to give up than restart. Give up, then restart. But when you fully commit to something and you have someone pushing you, you have this external leverage, what's going to happen is you're going to get more wins more quickly, and wins build momentum. And when you believe, because you've had these wins that you never had before, like I got a girl's number or I had a new PR in the gym. As soon as you have those wins, you start to believe I can succeed. And then eventually you don't need coaching anymore because now you have this deep-seated self-belief. You have this proof that you can actually get better and actually have successes. So let's talk about what kinds of coaching we offer really quick. Yeah. I have 2 types of coaching. One is immersion in-person coaching that happens over the course of 7 days, where we go out and I take you to approach women. That's my area of expertise, not fitness, maybe someday. But that's what I'm good at. And so I take you out to approach women, to push yourself out of your comfort zone, to overcome approach anxiety. You ended up getting laid, on the third day of working with me. My last immersion client actually also got laid on the second day. And that's very common because when you have this external leverage, it is so much like there's a lot of guys watching this who girls like them They want to like them, but they don't know how to lead it forward. They don't know how to make their intentions clear. They don't know how to face that fear of rejection, which is something we all experience. As soon as someone guides you to get over that, then all of a sudden, it's not difficult to get a girl to come home with you. You realize that it's not this crazy thing that you need to like read 1,000 books to figure out how to do. Believe it or not, there are other people throughout history who figured it out. You just have this blockage, and once someone helps you get over that blockage, the results come very quickly. So that's one type. Now, some people cannot do in-person coaching because of their location or their schedule, and in that case, I also have an online mentorship program. Click the link below to learn more about both of those.
Right on. So I recently relaunched my coaching program. I specifically focus on fitness and self-development. A lot of the things is to become a strong, capable person, but as well as that, from a more practical side, I help guys out with their online dating profiles as well. One of the best ways to just look good when it comes to online dating, very visual platform, is just to be freaking ripped, right? Like even for me on my dating apps, Tinder in particular, like when I actually have like physique photos and stuff, they freaking kill it. The guys that I help out, if they have physique photos and they're able to show off their physique correctly, they freaking kill it on there. So it makes a big difference, not just for your body, but for your face as well. And so I try to kind of encompass all of those things. So I'm also coming out with a course soon that implements the same exact things I've been going through during this 30-day challenge for myself, where basically you do the same thing for whatever goals that you have to try to basically transform in a very short amount of time in 30 days. But there are some people that want a little bit more guidance with that, so I offer that through coaching as well.
With the immersion coaching, I can only take on 3 clients per week. And so in the next 3 months, I have 2 weeks where I have spots available. And then after that, you have to move forward several months. So I only have a couple spots in the near future. When you do one-on-one coaching, your time is inherently limited. You can only take on so many clients. So if this is something that you've been considering, if you've been considering like taking this seriously with me, pick up with him, more the general like improving in life, getting into better shape, building discipline, building your character. If those are things that you've been putting off and procrastinating, you've been dipping your feet in the water and like not actually diving in, well, now is the time to do that while we have availability.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, for me personally, I've been a coach now for 10 years, and you like you said, you're limited with your time. So for me, especially with posting so much on YouTube and starting to get into like writing and stuff, I can only handle 10 clients at a time. So once I have 10 clients, I'm capping it. But regardless of that, the course that I'm going to have, the 30-day course, that'll always be available. But there's an additional option to that when I launch it to also work with me one-on-one. But again, that's going to be limited just because I can only handle so many people at once before the quality of the coaching goes down, and that's something I'm never going to sacrifice on. So basically, I'm only going to do 10 people at once.
A lot of people probably don't know this, but our channels both get about 200,000 views per month, which is actually more about the average of a channel with, say, 100 to 120,000 subscribers. So in terms of the amount of views we get, which is what matters in terms of filling up spots, we have a lot of traffic, and so that is very limited. And unless we get, banned or shadow banned, that growth is on an exponential curve. So next month it'll be 300,000, then it'll be 500,000. And then eventually we're just either gonna have to stop doing in-person coaching or charge insane amounts of money.
Yeah, $1 bajillion. That would be, you'd just be training like Elon Musk and his billionaire.
I mean, he dated Amber Heard, so he could probably use some help with dating, his dating choices.
Yeah, good point.
Let's be real.
But yeah, anyway, links will be below in the description to book a call with either of us, depending on what your goals are. Again, if your main goals are fitness, overall self-development, having like a bomb profile where you're getting tons of matches, just based off of you transforming fitness-wise and just looking better, along with actual techniques when it comes to that type of stuff, book a call with me. Otherwise, in terms of just like really getting good with girls, especially in person, like if you see a random girl during the day that's like really smoking hot and you're nervous to go approach her and you want to like learn how to approach her, what to say, this is your guy. I mean, he literally, I can vouch for him because he freaking helped me with that, and I saw massive amounts of success just on day 3. Thanks so much for watching. As always, be sure to like, comment, subscribe to Avery, and also subscribe to me if you haven't already. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.